Tata Steel reported a net loss of around 6,500 crores for the second quarter of FY24. Now, there was a double whammy of sorts as the company faced shrinking margins on one hand and on the other hand had to undertake impairment charges and provisions. Now, to know more about this, we have with us the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Tata Steel, Mr. TV Narendran. Hello, Mr. Narendran, and welcome to Moneycontrol.
Hi, Rachita. Thank you for having me on the show.
Pleasure to have you as always. Mr. Narendran, first things first, there's a fair bit of curiosity about the results. The market had expected the quarter to be weak given the global cues and given the softness in Europe demand. But what has kind of taken them by surprise and also is reflecting in the share prices right now is the significantly higher loss that you have reported. There are provisions and impairments that you have factored in. Help me understand, is this the last of it, or do you foresee some more impairments going ahead?
So I think what we've done largely is take on all the impairments that we needed to do and also factor in the restructuring costs that we need to incur. And that's why you see the loss the way it is, because we thought it's better for us to take it in this quarter, take the hit in this quarter, because we know exactly what's going to happen going forward. So that's where it is. I think operationally, yes, it was a challenging quarter. Uh, India has been strong as far as demand growth is concerned. Pricing started picking up towards the end of the quarter. As far as international prices are concerned, they continue to be weak. And in Europe, while UK has always struggled in challenging markets, in Netherlands, it was more to do with the blast furnace relining that we're going through. So we were operating with just one blast furnace, which means only 60% of the production. So you had negative numbers in Netherlands, which is unusual. And that's why the numbers look as they are. I think operationally, we were close to what most analysts thought we would deliver. I think the impairments obviously were one-off and not. I mean, the quantum was not known. I think most people knew that we would take some impairment, but they didn't know the amount.
So does that mean you don't expect any further impairments in the rest of the year? Is that and the restructuring provisions that you have done, does that take care of the entire plan?
Yes, that's the expectation, because I think in UK we have now pretty much cleaned up the book.
Fabulous. Mr. Narendran, talking of UK, there's a lot of media coverage coming on the kind of response people have had to the delay in announcement as far as your plan is concerned. Fair bit of curiosity on what's happening there and on job cuts. They're expecting that you might cut jobs to the tune of 3,000. So why the delay and what is the plan on that?
So I think maybe there's some confusion on the delay, as you say, because honestly, yesterday we were supposed to do a call with the media, but we had to push it because by the time the results got uploaded, etc., it was quite late. So that's why we're doing the calls today. So I think there was some expectation in UK that we were going to do a press conference to announce job cuts, whereas we were doing a press conference to discuss Q2 results. So I think that was some confusion there. But yes, things are a bit sensitive out there. Everyone knows that there will be job cuts. What is the amount of job cuts is what we are consulting with the unions, and that's a discussion we are having with them. We are required to go through meaningful consultation, and that process is going on. So once we came onto the same page as far as the government is concerned and the money that they would put in and the contours of the deal, we had planned that we would consult with the unions, which is what we're doing today. And at the end of the consultation, we will have a very clear path ahead and define timelines. We have obviously those timelines and expectations, but we need to get the unions on the same page.
Even if there was a confusion on the announcement, can you give us a timeline as to when do you expect to make some statement on that? Maybe that will pacify the people who are living in confusion right now.
No, I think we've said, even in the release that we made yesterday, we've said that there will be job losses. It will be unfair for us to give a specific number when we are in the middle of a consultation with the unions, because that is what we are supposed to consult on. So I think there are expectations which today has been shared in some sense with the unions, but I think we are obligated to go through that consultation process. But yes, it's clear that if we have to restructure the business, run a new process route, there will be an impact on jobs. We don't like it, but I think the objective is to, in some sense, make sure that we have a sustainable business in the UK. We continue to make steel in the UK. We use an electric arc furnace operation because we can leverage the scrap that is available in the UK, and we use as many of our workforce that we can use in the UK. I think we've committed, or we've spent a lot of money over the last decade or so to keep the steelmaking activity in the UK alive. And I think this is the best chance that we have to uh, create a sustainable future for the business.
We'll keep speaking to you as the UK story unfolds. Mr. Narendran, speaking of the demand prospects going ahead, India has been a little more resilient than probably the global demand. What is your take on demand going ahead in terms of India and your Europe operations for the rest of the year?
So I think India, the demand has been very strong. I don't think I've seen 10% growth in steel consumption in a long time. That's because all engines are firing. Automotive has been strong for the last 6 to 8 months. Even two-wheelers, which have been weak, have come back, which is also a reflection that the rural markets are picking up, because motorcycle sales, in some sense, indicate the strength or the weakness of the rural markets. Construction has been strong. Uh, in fact, surprisingly so, even during the monsoon months, maybe as always cyclical during monsoon months, but not as bad as we've seen in the past. And we expect a lot of activity to pick up from now till the elections, because a lot of projects need to get completed, so on and so forth. So the demand has been very strong in India. The pricing is a little bit more reflective of what's happening in the international markets. As far as Europe is concerned, this year is a bad year as far as demand is concerned. Auto has been okay, but most other sectors are struggling. But I think next year, the World Steel Association forecast is the European demand should grow by about 3%.
So, what does it mean for price and realization? If you were to give me some sense, maybe a band that we can expect.
So I think the guidance we're giving on prices in India is a net realization increase of about 2,200 rupees per ton in Q3 over Q2, because that's where we see the Indian market. Beyond that is more dependent on what the international markets indicate. Europe is going to be weaker, because Europe, particularly in Netherlands, we have a lot of long-term contracts, many of which will come up for negotiations. So they will reflect current prices than the prices at which we booked about a year back. So you will see price reductions in UK and Netherlands, but you will also see coal consumption costs reducing in UK and Netherlands. In India, the coal consumption cost will go up because we have already consumed the low-cost coal. So there will be margin expansion in India to some extent. In Netherlands, there will be margin expansion simply because the blast furnace will come back in operation towards the end of this month. But you will see a better quarter in Q4 in Netherlands, which is closer to what we've normally seen in Netherlands. So I do see things getting better in H2 compared to H1.
That should give some relief to your investors. In terms of raw material cost, especially energy cost, coking coal looks like most of the steel makers are looking at whatever resources are available right now. What's your strategy and price outlook on that? And overall, if you can give me a sense on your energy strategy right now, because I visited your Jamshedpur unit, and interestingly, they shared how they are looking at using gas as they transition towards cleaner resources. So help me understand how this strategy is playing out.
Yeah. So, as long as you use blast furnaces, you will need to use coking coal. So in Europe, if you look at it, in UK, we are transitioning again away from a blast furnace route to an electric arc furnace route, which means you will use scrap and electricity. And if that electricity is green, then you're even better off, right? So that's the approach there. In Netherlands, the plan is to move from blast furnace to gas-based steelmaking, a DRI unit and a steelmaking unit. And then eventually, when hydrogen is available in Netherlands, transition from gas to hydrogen. In India, the challenge is in Eastern India, we don't have much gas available as yet. Whether it's the pipeline infrastructure, whether it's the port infrastructure, a lot needs to be built. So till such time, we are dependent on blast furnaces and using coking coal. But having said that, we are looking at whatever gas is available to reduce the CO2 footprint by using more gas than we traditionally do. We are not making a process shift, but we are trying to see, can we inject gases wherever we can to reduce the use of coal. There are many other initiatives going on. We are also looking at how can we have a higher share of green energy in our energy consumption. We are doing a lot of work on injecting hydrogen into the blast furnaces. We are setting up electric arc furnace based units in Ludhiana and elsewhere. So multiple initiatives being taken to reduce our carbon footprint going forward.
You are talking to GAIL for gas supplies and gas infrastructure. Any breakthrough in that? Can we expect any announcement on that soon enough?
I think, yes, you're right. We've come to some sort of an understanding with GAIL. I think for the Jamshedpur plant, we should be able to get some gas. I think when we conclude the discussions, we'll be able to announce. GAIL is also looking at supplying gas into Jamshedpur city. So I think those conversations are going on. We are also keen to see how we can progress for our Odisha operations, because a lot of our future capacity is going to come up in Odisha, in Kalinganagar, Nilachal, and in the Meramandli unit of Bhushan, which we had acquired. So I think we're looking at overall gas availability in the east. I think it's important not just for Tata Steel, but for the country, because a lot of the steel capacity coming up in India will come up in eastern India. And I think we'll be adding at least 100 million tons of capacity every decade in India and in eastern India over the next few decades. So it's important to have gas available so that we can switch from coal-based process routes to gas-based process routes for the future.
So, is this likely to happen in this fiscal, the arrangement with GAIL?
Uh, I don't know as yet because there are a few loose ends to tie up. We hope so. We hope to do it sooner than later so that we can move forward.
Mr. Narendran, you have given me an overview of the demand and price and realization and also the raw materials there. Help me understand, we are almost at the end of the calendar year and very close to the end of the fiscal year. How will you, is there a concern that Tata Steel may end the financial year in red, given that first half there have been mounting losses?
So I don't want to give a specific guidance, but obviously, this impairment was something we had to take. If not for this impairment, obviously the numbers would have looked much better. But I think this impairment was something which was inevitable, and we had to take it sooner than later. But we have the second half. Like I said, I expect the second half to be better than the first half. And let's see if we can make up for the negative numbers that we have had in H1.
You have an ambitious target of doubling India capacity. Does the the losses, do they impact that plan, or that remains unchanged?
So I think just now, as far as growth in India is concerned, our focus is on completing the Kalinganagar project, which is at its final stages, so that that can translate into become a cash generating unit in some sense of the term. We have the Ludhiana project of an electric arc furnace, which is a green process route, which should come up in two years. So these two projects are going on, and I think we want to complete it as soon as possible. New projects, we will obviously look at our balance sheet and decide when to pace it, when to start it, because that's the advantage with organic growth. You can pace it well. We have the opportunity to double, like I said. We are already moving to 25 million tons with the Kalinganagar expansion. That means we have another 15 million tons, which we can build in Kalinganagar, in Nilachal, and in Meramandli. But we are also conscious about what is the debt on our balance sheet and how do we find the right balance. So we will keep reviewing that and share with you the plans as we make them. But the opportunity is there, the intention is there. We just need to keep an eye on the debt as well.
The last time we spoke, right after the first quarter result, you had said that 2 quarters of the year have been weak, but it's too soon to abandon the debt reduction plan. Now we
Yeah.
are almost midway in the third quarter, and you had set an ambitious target of reducing debt by around $1 billion in the financial year. Are we revisiting it, or are we still optimistic that we'll manage to do it?
No, I don't think we will ever give up, right? Now, whether we are optimistic about achieving it, that's a different matter. But I don't think, because the intent is to have a healthy balance sheet. How do we balance the growth aspirations with a healthy balance sheet? Yes, we've had a setback in Europe. It's been worse than we thought. We can debate whether India could have generated more cash. But I think the intent is to see how can we have good balance sheet and achieve our growth aspirations as well, and that's what we're working on.
All right. Before we wrap up, a very broad question, but something that is affecting many of us. The news reports from Delhi and Bombay. We are personally feeling the pollution levels going up significantly. Your Jamshedpur plant is bang in the middle of the city. I mean, obviously, the city was built around it. But the fact of the matter is that even though you have managed to reduce pollution levels significantly, it still remains quite high. As a very responsible corporate entity, how do you see this issue evolving in terms of the pollution levels in bigger cities and in cities which have industrial presence? And what do you think is the need of the hour in terms of a short-term measure and probably a long-term measure?
Yeah. So I think I'll talk about Jamshedpur and industrial plants, right? Industrial plants, we are obviously driven, we are not limited by, but we are driven by the regulations, and the regulatory environment gets tighter and tighter. So every time we go with a plan to expand the plant capacities, we are told that this is what your emission level should be. And we obviously comply to that, do better than that. And I can say that Jamshedpur at 10 million tons, which is the current production level, is emitting less than it was emitting when it was producing 5 million tons. So that's the kind of improvement that we made, but we want to keep making improvements, and many projects are continuing. So in the next few years, you will see the emission levels in Jamshedpur keep dropping. I dare say, since you visited Jamshedpur, I sometimes feel we have much cleaner air in Jamshedpur than most of the other big cities in India, which don't have a steel plant in the middle of the city. So I think we are. I'm not saying we can't do better, but I think we give our citizens a fairly clean environment. As far as India is concerned, I think there are multiple sources. Industrial plants are a source, vehicles are a source, construction activity is a source. As you saw in Delhi, stubble burning, etc., is a source. So there are multiple sources, and one needs to act on all sources, and see what is the best balance that we can get. So it's a challenge because obviously the AQI levels across India, multiple sites in India, are far higher than it is in global cities. So I think we need to do a good job on that. I think many developing countries, including China, are already moving a lot in that direction. And I think India is also moving in some sense in that direction.
Fair enough. Lots going on with Tata Steel, and I wish you all the best for all of them. We'll be in touch with you, and of course, look forward to all the updates from you. And before I wrap up, wishing you a very happy Diwali. So, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Narendran.
Thanks, Rajita. Wish you and all your viewers a very happy Diwali too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.